Today's video is going to be a little different. I'm also kind of excited. So what we've got is a match analysis from the Champions League match from yesterday provided by the Mastermind site, and what we're going to do is use that analysis and create two Football Manager tactics. We're going to create one for Manchester City and for Chelsea purely based on what we saw from last night. So in the video, we're going to go through the analysis. I'm going to give you the tactic as well. I didn't test it throughout the season with Manchester City nor Chelsea, but what I did do is set up two friendlies just to see how the tactic plays out, and what you guys can do is download it, tweak it and make it your own. But also what I want from you guys as well, let me know in the comments if this type of video is what you want during the Euros as well. So for example, when England or France are playing, we can analyze that match in the video, but also create a tactic for the teams that are playing as well. So make sure you let me know in the comments if that's what you want throughout the Euros as well. But also, if you are enjoying my type of content, if you're new or you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, also hit the like. But for now, let's get started. Manchester City set up in a 4-3-3 formation, filled with positional rotation and fluid movement for almost all players involved. Kevin De Bruyne operated as the false 9 in the team, but Phil Foden played practically right on top of him, giving the shape a very 4-2-3-1 or 4-2-4 look at times instead. But due to Bernardo Silva's high and wide position himself, the 4-3-3 shape is likely Guardiola's intent. The most notable omission from the team was in neglecting to play either Rodri or Fernandinho, instead utilising the goal-scoring Gundogan as the number 6. Pep Guardiola's team kept 60% of the ball in the match, forcing Chelsea to adopt a much different counter-attacking style in response. The Sky Blues played out from the back through vertical channels. They used Zinchenko as an inverted wing-back high on the left side, looking to exploit spaces between Havertz and Kante. Bernardo Silva also played high and wide as already noted, sometimes drifting so wide that Mahrez moved in field instead. Foden's movement was also very fluid, and his most common position was that of a number 10, searching for space in between the gaps of Kante and Jorginho. Their attacking shape often resembled a 2-4-4, with Foden clearly higher than Bernardo, and the fullbacks looking to get themselves involved but struggling to do so. Guardiola's men created several good shooting opportunities through energetic running in the wide areas, but had nobody to finish them off. They were quite deadly in the final third in playing wide to the likes of Mahrez, De Bruyne and Sterling to complete passes into the penalty area, driven across the grass. But Chelsea's 5-man defence meant that they had several numbers in the box to cut out these passes. In this regard, City's lack of a natural number 9 could be considered to be a miss, but more likely, Chelsea's defence were just that good and well positioned to cut off their attacks. In fact, after he arrived, Sergio Aguero barely touched the ball. A final note on the fluid movement of all Manchester City attackers is that it most likely just confused their own ability to progress in the final third more than anything. Bernardo found himself on top of Mahrez at times, limiting the Algerians' movement. Meanwhile, De Bruyne could hardly find pockets of space to pick up the ball, as Bernardo and Foden roamed around instead and stole some of these opportunities away. Manchester City attempted to transition from attack to defence quickly, looking to match Chelsea's speed on the break pace for pace. Sometimes they were effective in doing so, and other times the Blues almost took advantage. For most part, however, City dealt with Chelsea's counter-attacks well and forced them to slow down the tempo, go back and start again. City pressed in the 4-2-4 shape, with Foden and De Bruyne combining on both sides of the field alongside with the near-sided winger and the near-sided central midfielder, Gundogan or Bernardo. As N'Golo Kante galloped up the field, Ilkay Gundogan was the man tasked with tracking his movement. Perhaps his positional sense in the defensive third let him down more than Rodri or Fernando might have been able to accomplish, but this is difficult to say. His reserved, more defensive role did however stun his ability to go on a hunt and attack, which was a greater miss for the Sky Blues than they would have thought by putting him in that position. With Chelsea's goal, John Stones found himself lost in La La Land, attracted to Mount like a magnet only to give the Englishman space and time to turn and leave him completely caught out for Havertz to run in behind. Zinchenko couldn't close the gap as Havertz ran in behind, and Mount's brilliant pass found the German at the perfect moment for him to round Ederson and score. Chelsea set up in their usual 3-4-2-1 formation, but on this occasion it really did feel more like a 3-4-3, especially with Mount and Havertz restricted to wide roles in defence. Those two men were tasked with tracking the movement of City's inverted wingbacks in particular, but Werner also looked to screen passes into Gundogan. This gave their defensive shape a 5-2-3 look for most part of the match, and more 5-4-1 forward to the final 10 minutes. There were no surprises in the team sheet, and Andreas Christensen came in to fit in seamlessly well for Thiago Silva after the Brazilian's first half groin injury. Chelsea built out from the back and wide areas, utilising both their central midfielders on the side of the ball to break lines and get up the field. Jorginho would often position himself lower in the diamond as Kante drifted higher. Even with City getting so many numbers around the ball, they still couldn't quite stop Chelsea's wide overloads in this regard. The Blues most frequently made moves on the right side, which also allowed space to switch the ball to the left as they pleased. This was an intentional strategy by Tuchel's team to get Chilwell on the ball in advanced areas on the left hand side. Edouard Mendy, Thiago Silva, Antonio Rudiger and Jorginho all looked for passes wide and long into Chilwell's path, and the British defender was one of the key men for the Blues on the day in allowing them to have more attacking gusto. This was exactly how they scored the goal. Mendy went long to Chilwell, the former Leicester man caressed the ball down into Mount, and the rest was history. They looked to utilise these wide areas throughout the match and create good crossing opportunities and deliver quality balls into the penalty area. This was exactly why Tuchel's side had better chances throughout the game, as they created several opportunities for Werner to hammer the ball into the net, only for him to misfire. With City keeping the bulk of the possession, Chelsea were more direct in getting the ball forward. Sometimes these were switches to play to Chilwell, and other times it was more hopeful passes into the wide channels for the likes of Havertz, Werner and Mount to run onto. While Mount stayed wide left throughout this match and played a highly influential role in stopping Kyle Walker from playing, Kai Havertz's movement was much more fluid. The German popped up all over the pitch, creating chances from the left and centrally at different moments in the game, despite playing as the team's right winger. A final note on Chelsea's possession is the box-to-box nature of N'Golo Kante. The French midfielder played like an absolute energizer bunny, but every time he went forward he did leave a hole for City to exploit. Fortunately for the Blues, they were quite adept at stopping City from achieving much success on the break, and Jorginho was usually well positioned enough to help mitigate this concern. Chelsea defended throughout the match in a 5-2-3 shape, operating more of a high block than a high press. That is, they didn't press with any intensity or intent of winning the ball back high up the pitch. They instead looked to shuffle into the shape until they can cut out the ball in either central midfield or in wide areas. Reece James and Ben Chilwell made their opposite wingers look very quiet throughout the game. As City tried to play wide left to Sterling, Reece James was always up to the task. Even if he found himself beaten, the 20-year-old's recovery pace allowed him to get back and time his tackle to perfection. Speaking of time and tackles to perfection, Kante's positional sense in the match was outstanding, and his role from a defensive standpoint cannot be understated. Mount and Kai Havertz also stuck to their task well in sticking with the City's inverted wingbacks, and they looked for space instantly after the team won possession. Mount's pressing and energy in particular was fantastic, and he often played a key role in helping stop City's quick counter-attacks by coming all the way back. Finally, Chelsea dealt with everything in the air, limiting City's long balls from Ederson or long throws towards the end of the match. With so many numbers back, even shorter players like N'Golo Kante were climbing up to win headers, a testament to Chelsea's approach throughout the game in winning at all costs. Overall, Chelsea's defence is what ultimately won the day, and Thomas Tuchel should be commended for implementing such a robust, resilient defensive structure throughout the season. So there it is, an analysis of the UEFA Champions League final between Chelsea and Manchester City. The Mastermind also has a preview of the match if you want to go and check that as well. The link for that would also be in the description, but for now, we're quickly going to run through the Football Manager tactic. So first off, we're going to start with Manchester City because they lost, so we're going to start with Manchester City and then the winners should get their special treatment. So in goal, we do have the sweeper keeper on defend duty, which is Ederson. You can switch it to support if you want to be picky. It didn't really make a difference. At left back, we have an inverted wing back in Zinchenko. His instruction is to get further forward. At right back, we have a full back on attack with dribble more. Kyle Walker actually completed the most dribbles yesterday with 8 completed dribbles. In central defence, we have a central defender on the defend duty, which is John Stones, looking to circulate the ball out wide, and we also have a ball playing defender, Ruben Diaz, someone that can actually bring the ball out from defence as well. In central midfield, we have a defensive midfielder, which is Gundogan on the supportive duty. His instruction is to mark tighter in hope he will be trying to track a box-to-box midfielder's run, someone like N'Golo Kante. On the right of central midfield, we have a Mazzala, which is Bernardo Silva. He will look to get further forward, stay wider and move into the channels, but also roam from his position as well. And on the left side of, well, central midfield, attacking midfield, we have Phil Foden. The reason why I have him attacking midfield is so we can get kind of a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-4 shape when pressing. His instruction is to get further forward, roam from position and close down more, trying to get up alongside De Bruyne when closing down. On the left, we have an inside forward, which is Raheem Sterling. He's going to hold up play. He can be looking for runners inside or out. He's going to get further forward and also stay wider when we are in possession. On the right, we have Mahrez as an inverted winger on support. He's instructed to take more risk on the ball, trying to break down the defense, hold up the ball and stay wider as well. Up top, lastly, we do have the false nine. He's going to be roaming from his position, Kevin De Bruyne. Of course, there is no other role that we could have possibly used here. For the team instructions, we are using the positive mentality. The attacking width is wide, so we're stretching the pitch. We are going to be playing out from the defense, of course. The passing directness is going to be shorter with the tempo on lower. We're looking to control the game mainly. In the final third, we are going to be putting our low crosses in, working the ball into the box and be more expressive. In transition, when the possession has been lost, we don't really have an instruction. I wouldn't really say that I saw Manchester City counter pressing from last night. When the possession has been won though, we are looking to hold our shape, looking to keep the possession, but also the players are going to be roaming around in a designated area. When the goalkeeper is in possession, he is going to distribute it to the centre backs, and for out of possession, we are using a much higher defence line. You will see right here with the average position, Manchester City's defence line looks very, very high, and we have a high line of engagement. The defensive width is set to narrow, the pressing intensity is set to more urgent, and that there wraps up Manchester City's Champions League final tactic, and we're now going to go to the Champions League winners, Chelsea. For Chelsea, this is what I've got. If your opinions differ, make sure you leave those in the comments as well. But for the team instructions, we're going to go through the team instructions first this time. For the mentality, we are using a balanced mentality. For the attacking width, we are using wide as well. We're going to look to stretch the play. For the approach play, we are going to pass into space, hopefully trying to play those hopeful balls into the path of Werner, Mount and Havertz. For the approach play, we are going to be playing out from the defense and also focus down on the right. Because yesterday, 54% of Chelsea's attacks happened down the right. So for me, it's clear to see that Chelsea were looking to attack down the right or focus down the right as well. That can actually shift Manchester City's defence over slightly to that side, and it's going to leave our left side exposed. Chilwell is going to be in some space. For the passing directness, we are using the standard passing directness with the tempo set to higher, so we are trying to initiate some quick counter attacks. And when possession has been lost, we are going to regroup a little. Now, if you don't want this instruction, because this is mainly for the last 10 minutes of the match anyway, you can just leave it off similar to how I did it with Manchester City. But if you do want that defensive stability that Chelsea's shown, especially in the last 10 minutes, then you can see on the screen right now from the match that I tested, it will give you a 5-4-1 shape. But when the possession has been won, we are then going to be making our counter movements vital for a counter attacking side. When the goalkeeper is in possession, he is going to be distributing it to the centre backs or the full backs, well basically the whole defence line. For out of possession now, we are using a higher defence line but a standard line of engagement. The defensive width is set to narrow, the pressing intensity is set to more urgent, we are preventing the short goalkeeper distribution as well. We obviously don't want Manchester City to be playing out from the defence. We aren't exactly going to be pressing high, but we are going to be man marking, making it more difficult for Manchester City to play out. And for the tackling, we are going to be getting stuck in, mainly because Chelsea completed 21 tackles last night. So for the player roles, in goal we do have Mendy on the defensive duty again, and again like Manchester City, you can just move it to support if you want. You can see here there's take more risk. Hopefully he will be taking more risk to the left wing back, but that's a big hope, that's a big ask. In defence, we do have two ball playing defenders on either side of the central defender. The central defender is the central defender on the cover duty. On the flanks, on the left flank, we do have a wing back on the supportive duty. He's instructed to mark tighter. On the right, we have a wing back on the automatic duty. Again, he's instructed to mark tighter. In central midfield, we have a weird combination. We have a Carrilero and we have a box-to-box midfielder. Again, I'm going to pop up some heat map. So, Kante's movement was a lot more vertical. It's a lot more getting up, getting back, being more energized, while Jorginho's movement was a lot more lateral. It's more side to side, covering the gaps, especially for Kante, which is similar to what a Carrilero would do, shuttling between the lines, and hopefully on the left he can be a cover for Alonso, but mainly in central midfield. If Kante does get further forward, Jorginho is there shifting across, trying to cut off the supply. For Kante's role, we are using a box-to-box midfielder. He's instructed to dribble more, which is something that Kante likes to do and maybe doesn't get enough credit for it. He's also instructed to get further forward, tackle harder and mark tighter, which is trying to get that ball-winning element to his role. On the left, we are using an inverted winger on support, which is for Mason Mount. He's instructed to run from his position and mark tighter. On the right, we do have an inverted winger on the attack duty. He's going to take more risk, run from position and also mark tighter. Lastly, up front, we have a pressing forward on attack, which is Timo Werner. Get further forward, move into channels, close down more, tackle harder are all the instructions that are already there. Now, with Werner's role, with the pressing forward I should say, it doesn't actually mean he's just going to be pressing relentlessly no matter what. Actually, he's only going to really press once Manchester City or the opponents break the line of engagement. So, if we are using a pressing forward, or if you are using a pressing forward, don't then get into thinking he's just going to be pressing all over the pitch. Really, he's only going to be pressing once the opponents approach the line of engagement. But that there is the tactics wrapped up. Well, I did set up two friendlies here. The first one, we had a couple of injuries, so the squad's kind of different. You can see here we are using Alonso, Christensen as well in centre back. But here's the stats from that match. Chelsea had 8, Manchester City had 12. On target, Manchester City had 6, Chelsea had 3. The XG, Manchester City won on that side as well. For the possession, Manchester City had 56% and Chelsea had 44. The game ended 1-1 as well, but here we can see Chelsea's defensive shape looking much like a 5-4-1. So we have the 5 defenders here, the 4 midfielders and that 1 striker. For Manchester City's shape, it looked a lot like a 4-3-3, but this is actually when I use Phil Foden in central midfield rather than attacking midfield. So for the second friendly, which we will check now. Now here, with Foden slightly advanced, we can also see that he's slightly advanced from his central midfield partner as well, and a little closer to the striker. In possession for Manchester City, this is what it looked like. It does look a bit funky during the game. For some odd reason, they did switch Raheem Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne, which is why they are very, very close. But of course, the left winger's position would be similar to Riyad Mahrez. When Chelsea were in possession in the first friendly I tested, you can see their shape is quite stretched actually, with the wing backs making sure they stay wide. Also, the 2 wide men are very wide as well, which is kind of encouraging, not really when they're on the ball, because we do want them kind of closer to Werner. But of course, in Manchester City are the ones that are doing most of the attacking. Those 2 wide men are going to be doing a lot of tracking back, making sure they track back Zinchenko and Kyle Walker. But unfortunately, that wraps up this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you tell me in the comments as well. If you want more of this, especially through Euros, make sure you let me know in the comments. My name is RDF. Big thank you to the mastermind as well. Make sure, please make sure you check out their site. The link will be in the description. I will see you guys soon. Stay safe. Make sure you are subbed as well. Make sure you like this video. Peace out. I will see you soon.